Whatever stage you're at with your trading, it's important to stop and gain perspective before planning your next move. Take a break from the charts and join in the discussion with our hosts, Jason Graystone and Akil Stokes, as they share insights, opinions and expertise on all things trading. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair and join the Trader Coffee Break.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Trader Coffee Break. I'm Jason Graystone.
I'm Akil Stokes.
And this is another session where we get together, have a coffee, rant about trading topics. And boy, coming off of the morning that I had in the live room this morning, there's rants to be had, but we're gonna, we decided to carry on the theme of helping you guys get into trading the right way. And today we're gonna be talking about resources, books, things that you might want to immerse yourself in as you're learning to trade. I think one of the most common questions I get is what books are good to read, you know, where can I start? And when you start learning to trade, people tend to want to just immerse themselves. They want to, you know, get as much in as possible, take as much in as possible, which is great to some respect. But it can also be a danger, right, Akil? You could learn a bit too much. Like there's got
to be structure in your learning, whether it's books or courses or YouTube videos. And I know one of the first things I did when I first started trading, I think many people will probably take the same route, is when I looked for books. I looked for books that talked about strategies and technical analysis. And I can tell you what, in hindsight, you know, the majority of the books that I have now have nothing to do about chart work or strategies or stuff like that. A lot of those books I bought were kind of the, you know, they baited me in. Baited me in to think I'm learning a strategy and I'm reading about it. And of course, they're handpicking perfect opportunities. And I get through it all and I realize that I'm no more knowledgeable about the markets now than when I was going in. So I think it's tough. You got to kind of have to plan what you want to learn before you go about learning it. And that's just not a step that most people take.
Yeah, it is a bit catch-22 and people can become a bit stuck, particularly with like a common one, aside from books, which we'll get into in a moment, but the kind of resource centers like baby pips and things like that, where people go, I'm going to go and learn baby pips. I'm going to go and absorb baby pips, which is a fantastic encyclopedia of trading, right? But I kind of relate it to trying to learn the English language and have a conversation with someone by reading the Oxford Dictionary, you know, and learning you can read a lot, you can learn like literally every word, but you still don't know how to string it together. And I think that's a very similar approach. And you end up learning so much that you are paralyzed from actually moving forward, or let alone developing a system, and you get that paralysis by analysis. And then there's certain books like that I've found, like, I'll mention a book straight away, and that's the Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Which, if you're watching this, the chances are you've heard of that book anyway. But it's the kind of book that you don't really want to read from day one. Like it's a book where you need to have some pain, right? And you need to like have been in the game a little bit to go, wow, you know, that's me, you know, and you kind of relate to it. Would you agree?
Yeah, that was a game changer book for me. I wish I would have read it a little bit earlier. I had read it personally right after I made kind of the jump. And I'm like, man, if I would have read this like 6 months earlier, like this is everything I just did. Like I just figured, like it took me a year to figure all this stuff out. At least I could have been aware of it. But that book was a good one. Also, little known fact, taught me why I was afraid of dogs. I'm no longer afraid of dogs now. That book helped me overcome my fear of dogs, which is not maybe trading related, but helped me in a personal sense as well. But it's it's a great book. Like you said, it's one of those books that you don't think you need, or you don't need it until you need it.
Until
but once
you
have
it,
man, once you have it, it's a must. It's one of the trading Bibles out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and anything by Mark Douglas, you know, The Disciplined Trader, great book as well. But as I say, it's kind of the book that you don't want to read at the beginning, because you'll be thinking, oh, you know, it's I don't need to know this stuff. But it's definitely a book you want to read before you get too deep into it going around in circles. Let's just say that. So
there's another real quick. There's another. We'll put the link down below. There's a Mark Douglas. it's not a seminar or webinar, but it's a recording of a presentation. He did a multi-part series that's really good as well. That's available on YouTube, right, where it's I'm not sure if it's before or after. It might be right after he wrote Trading in the Zone, or maybe between the Disciplined Trader, but we'll share that in the notes. And that's another really good video resource that you can use as well, coming off of Mark Douglas's stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I get asked all the time, what are good books to read? So let's fire off a couple of hours. I guess it's any trading books that we've got value from, and why, and what area of trading it will help them with. You want to go?
Sure, I'll kick off. An important book for me, probably the most important one, was the Market Wizards series. I started off with the first Market Wizards. There's been, I think, 3 or 4 since. I haven't read the new one. I think it's called Market Wizards, Traders You Never Heard of, or something like that. But that was a tremendous book. And Market Wizards, for you guys that aren't familiar, it's interviews by Jack Swagger, interviewing the top traders of all time. And what was cool and eye-opening for me was 2 things. One, back when I read it, I was under the opinion, and many of you guys are probably under this opinion right now, that there's this one super secret strategy technique that is needed to be successful in the markets. And if you don't have this one thing that everyone's hiding from you, you'll never be successful. And reading the book, going through different traders, they all trade differently. They all had different markets. They all had different approaches. One guy looked at the almanac and paid attention to stars and moons, and he was successful doing that. So it was a reality check for me. That's like, okay, like there are different ways to approach the markets. There are different ways to be successful. I don't have to necessarily follow what one person is saying. Because again, at the time, imagine I'm searching the internet and reading books and everyone's telling me different things and I'm overwhelmed and confused. Like, well, which is right? If there's one way and all you guys are doing different ways, how do I know? So that was one big thing. Another big thing for me was that something all of these traders haven't had in common, except for I think one, they all failed. They all failed pretty badly. And at the time I was a struggling trader. I had zero confidence. I was bad. And my, the thoughts that I had in my own mind were that I'll never be successful, because if you're good, you're supposed to be good right away. Because again, that's the way the internet makes it seem. So to read stories about, traders who are blowing their accounts, and this one guy was crying in the stairwell, he had to call his mom and ask for money so he could get back into a position. And I'm like, if that's not rock bottom, I don't know what is. So it gave me that confidence that like, hey, all of these guys have been to the lowest of low points and they still made it to be the greatest. And for someone who was at one of those low points at the time, it just gave me that boost. Like, man, just keep going, keep working at it. You'll find a way. So it was the biggest motivational read I had, and it hit right at the right time as well.
I found that as well with that book. I found those 2 points really valuable. And the fact that what I saw was many of the traders in that book, in fact, I think it's all of them, they all went back to trading the original system that they were trading in the beginning and just made it work. So I think that's a good book to read early on in your trading career or journey, because it will just kind of obliterate that chasing shiny object thing, because it stops you. You just write, oh, right, okay, there's thousands of ways to make money, and everyone's doing it differently, and it stops you trying to find that next best thing. And I think that's such a big problem, with dieting and fad diets and trading.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw out one for the kind of the people that, one step on from that, I guess, is a book called One Good Trade by Mike Bellafiore. And the reason I'd put that after Market Wizards is because it's really it's a bit like what we do at Tier 1. It's a step-by-step process to follow in order to build a profitable trading business. It's principles that if you abide by and you implement and execute, then you will be profitable. And the principle of one good trade is, by the time you're placing one good trade, every trade is a good trade, whether you're winning, losing, because the process behind what you've built and the execution, which is just a tiny little piece of that, is all the hard work's done. And if you follow the principles in that book, and you build that into your own trading, you're going to have one good trade, one good trade, one good trade. And it is a real mind shift for many people who have been trying to build 100% strike rate system. You know, the people who are, you know, really beating themselves up over a drawdown or a loser, who think they're doing something wrong. And I think it follows on really nicely from Market Wizards. What do you think of One Good Trade?
Fantastic book, man. It was, for me, and again, this is one that I read later in my trading journey. There it goes right there. It was one where I was teaching at the time, and it reinforced everything that my mentors taught me. It reinforced everything that I was teaching. And it's coming from one of the most well-respected sources in the industry, Mike Bellafiore. Yep. And it's cool to see, because I've never seen up to that point what it looks like on the other side of the prop firm, right? I've spoken to institutional traders, and they touch and dance around things. It's a completely different style. But for retail traders, it's cool to see that, hey, you've got a professional prop firm, these professional traders, and it's the same exact principles of success that we're teaching other retail traders. So that was big. And the biggest thing was process. The biggest thing was working with different traders in different attributes that they had. The cool thing that I still use to this day is, remember, he talked about the interview process that he goes through when interviewing traders for his prop firm. And he asks them a series of questions and tries to judge their answer. He said one thing that he does when he talks about entries and strategies and whatnot is he gives them 6 seconds to respond. If they can't respond in 6 seconds, then it's not written. It's not part of the plan. You're making it up, and that's not going to fall into the one good trade category. And it reminded me so much of myself when I first got interviewed by my mentor, and he was asking me questions, and I'm just like, well, sometimes, and I had no answer, and I well surpassed that 6 seconds. And it's like, and I use that to this day, and I'm sure you do too, where we'll have traders in a live room.
We use it with the traders.
Yeah, we're like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, well, why? What's your reason for entry? And your professional traders will be there. If price action comes to previous structure, then I look for RSI to go overbought. If RSI goes overbought, then I sell next bar market, assuming we get a lower low, lower close candle. And boom, you can just ramble it off because it's easy. It's systematic. If you don't,
if you don't, then
if you don't, then you're making it up on the spot, and you're gambling, not trading. If you're doing that, so that's I think that's a must read. I think that's probably the best book I've read on the process of trading and the mindset of thinking about it as far as good trade versus wins and losses.
Yeah, amazing. And this one actually is written in by Mike Bellafiore and signed. And what we're going to do is we're going to send this out to whoever shares this episode and tags myself and Akil in. If you tag us on social media, we're going to send this out to you. It's signed by Mike, and that copy will be in the post for you guys. So there you go. Get sharing. By the way, also, if you guys have got any favorite books you want to recommend as we're talking, let us know in the comments here, and we'll see what ones you guys like as well. What's another great one of your faves then, Akil?
Here's one. Maybe it's not really going in order, but I talked about I don't like a lot of books on technical analysis. I think a lot of them are fluff. They're handpicked opportunities to make whatever strategy look good.
Yeah.
Adam Grimes, I know you're a fan of this one. This is a thick boy. It's big. The art and science of technical analysis is, I'm going to say, and I've read some good classical charting books. It's probably my favorite book on technical analysis. Now, where the other two is for in the beginning stages, I don't recommend reading this book until after you've already learned how to trade, because I think, although me and you can read it and we can understand it and interpret it, I think if you're new to technical analysis, if you're new to trading, I think it's gonna be very difficult to understand. But I think it's one that you read as part of your continued education, just to see if you can get a little bit more edge in the market and what you're doing. But I don't recommend a lot of technical analysis books, but Adam Grimes he's amazing at how he looks at everything. He's very quantitative.
How he articulates as well.
Yep, it's a very well-written book. It's big, but it's readable, which I can't say about some other books out there that I've attempted and just given up on, because it's
they just go on and on and on.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend one on money management, more of the money management side, and that's called The Trading Game. So this is The Trading Game, and this is a great book. For those of you guys, I don't know if you caught my Instagram live earlier, guys, but I was speaking about, if you want to have a great body, it's like 80% mindset, and then it's like 15% nutrition and diet, and then 5% exercise, and that's it, right? In trading, it's 80% psychology, 15% money management and risk management, and 5% strategy and execution. And it really is like that. So what I'm saying is a lot of the results that you get in your trading is down to good risk management and money management. And this is a good book if you want to learn more about money management. It's numbers and charts and columns, and you're going to have to understand. You're going to have a kind of higher IQ if you're going to read this, but it's definitely worth reading if you guys are particularly got a profitable system and you're trying to figure out how to make it accelerate in those winning streaks and protect your capital in drawdown periods. So check out The Trading Game. That is by, I forget, Ryan Jones. Yeah. So I don't know if you've read that, Akil.
I have. Yeah, I have. Yep. It's needed. Let's put it that way.
Needed.
That made me think about another one, which this was a tough find for me. I spoke to Michael Lamott. He has this as well. He got all excited about it. Have you ever seen this one, The Winning Edge?
I have seen that. Yeah.
This is
I haven't got that.
It's a 4-part series. I've only got 2 of them. It's extremely tough to find. What I like about this is it talks about the other elements of trading, and it talks about personal psychological power, but it shares some stories about the outside elements in trading that you need to focus on. So, 2 big stories I took from there. One was a trader who took his emotions home with him. So he'd had rough days in the market, and we all know how those are. You get frustrated, you want to smash your computer. We're smart enough to know exercise where, you'll hit the gym. I'll go for a bike ride or something to kind of, have a pattern interrupt from your trading, and then you separate it and you go home to your wife and kids, and that's a separate thing. One of the hard parts about being a retail trader, especially if you're working from home, is there's not always that separation. So if you have a bad day in trading, you can easily take it back to your family. And there was a story in here that scared the crap out of me about a guy who had a rough trading day. He'd come home and he'd take it out on his wife and kids. And one day he came home and they weren't there. And not only did he lose in the market, but he lost what's more important, everything he was working for. And that made me realize you have to have that separation. Talked a lot too about it made me really get down the kind of the ergonomic path and just taking care of myself, like what type of chair I sit in. This convinced me or motivated me to get the standing desk, to get the ergonomic mouse, the keypad, because you're standing in front of or sitting in front of a chart all day, and before you know it, right, you're here. If you don't have blue light filters on your monitor, your eyes start dying on you. Before you know it, there's all these other physical side effects that come into play. And you may not think that's a big deal, but I'm telling you, if you've ever felt uncomfortable and you've tried to focus on the markets, like that's a bad combination, because you're already in an irritated emotional state, and that's just going to go over into the markets as well. So, that's the first book that made me kind of realize, like, hey, like I should spend on the other aspects of trading that help with my life and help make my trading state much more polished. And so
really great points. And I think we'll probably do an episode or discussion on like trading gear. That'll probably be a good episode. But I'm eyeing up your chair. I'm looking at one of those chairs. So what chair is that? Is that is it Extreme Labs? Is it? Or?
This is Secret Labs.
Secret Labs. Sorry.
Secret Labs. Enjoy it. It's starting to come apart a little bit. I think that's mainly, I got 2 kids that climb on it when I'm not around and dig their nails into it. But for first time I ever spent up on a chair, because I'm pretty frugal, and I'm like, I'll just buy a Walmart chair or something like that. But then you realize if you're going to get something quality, and you don't have to replace it every year like the other stuff.
Right. Yeah, I use, like, even my monitors, I use an anti-glare HD monitor. So it's high definition, so you get crystal clear, but it's anti-glare. It's not gloss screens, because that is having a major effect on my eyesight. Like I had to, and I went to the opticians, and this is kind of a bit of a sidetrack, but it's valid to the book recommendation. I went to the optician and they said, like, you got 20/20 vision, but one's like slightly shorter sighted than the other, which means because you're looking at flat screens all day, like one's doing more work. So I had to like have glasses, and I thought, man, I've never had to wear glasses. And when you spend a lot of time in front of the charts, that's one of those things where you think, I didn't really anticipate having to wear glasses. And, so bear that
Funny
in
you
mind.
mentioned that same thing. I never wore glasses until trading. It's the exact same thing with the eyes. As soon as I start out, I go every year, and then you get new prescriptions. You got to pay for it, new glasses, all that stuff, right? And when I finally started doing stuff like blue light filters and taking care of myself, I haven't had any. My vision hasn't changed in the last four years,
right?
Not one bit.
Yeah.
So if you just take care of yourself and do the small things around it, save you some money too, but it saves your health, like you said.
Definitely.
You get trader eye.
Yeah, trader eye. But unfortunately, the hair doesn't come back.
No, it doesn't. that also decreases at a rapid rate from trading.
Yeah. So what about a couple? I can recommend a couple of like kind of traders story books, like Way of the Turtle, for instance. Like great book. I think you like Pitbull. Is it one of your?
I like Pitbull. I think that's a great read again, I like reading about successful people because I want to be successful. You follow their lessons. Pitbull hit particularly well at me for home. My history, I did manage money for a while, and I don't like using the word failure. I tried to, yesterday I kind of made a thing to myself where I'm going to replace failure with lesson. So I learned a lot of lessons in managing money, a lot of lessons with myself, a lot of lessons with dealing with clients. But all in all, it wasn't a success in my opinion. And I used to beat myself up for the longest period of time, where it's like, well, you're not a good trader because when you were put in a position where you had to do it for someone else, you weren't as successful as you wanted to be. And one of the coolest things about Pitbull was Marty Schwartz, where great trader, failed at managing money for others. And it talked a lot about that book, how it's a completely different game. And we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of traders lately that have been either getting funded by prop firms. It's been a hell of a 2-year run for our traders getting funded. But a lot of them that are thinking about getting funded, we've been explaining to them, and our traders have been coming back and sharing their stories about how it's different. Yeah. It is different. And the cool lesson is you can be successful trading for yourself. Maybe you aren't able to get funded, or maybe you aren't able to have success managing money. It doesn't mean that you're a bad trader. Just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you're not good at doing it for yourself. And I think that's important, because some of you guys out there are going to attempt it and you are going to learn some lessons. You may not be successful. It doesn't mean you have to dump it. It just may mean you're not an expert at that particular route.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to recommend one more. It's a book by Van Tharp. Anything by Van Tharp is generally pretty good. This one's called Trade Your Way. It's a terrible book name, Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom. Terrible book name, but absolutely fantastic book. There's a lot about building your own trading methodology, but basically building your own system. And that's really what it's all about. And as you know, Akil, that's the way that you have the best results in trading. You have to build something to suit you, to suit your personality, something you can trade consistently and manage as a business. And that's one of the top books that I've read on methodologies in trading.
I have not read that one. I'm gonna have to add that to the list.
It's a good one. It's really, really good. Yeah, it's called Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom by Van Tharp. And I think we could go on for a long time recommending books, but it kind of leads into the last point that I want to make, and that's like really the message of this podcast is do a bit less. Like, no amount of podcasts that you listen to is going to make you a successful trader. No amount of books that you read will make you a successful trader. You have to actually start moving forward and making progress and building a system and honing in on one thing, and not trying to find this book, that system. That really is a trap that a lot of people fall into. So less is more. Gain perspective on more by doing less. Pick one book that we've recommended, have a little read of it, but move forward in your trading journey and use the information in that book to help you, not to follow it as gospel, but to help you develop as a trader in yourself. I think that's fair to say, Akil, right?
Yeah, and I would say this: if you notice that, when we talk about all these books, we pulled about 1 or 2 points from it, and understand that when you read a book or do anything, and especially with us, where we're in a continued education phase where we're always trying to learn, we're not looking for a book where it's going to like blow the doors off and, there's something brand new I never knew before, and front to back was good. It's like the whole book can suck, and it could be information that maybe we already know, we're already accustomed with. If you can take one small nugget, if you can just take one small nugget out of the book, you can see that these things that last forever with you, and that's all you need to progress. So don't feel disappointed if it's not a world changer. Very rarely are you gonna, have a book that's a world changer where it's like, I never knew this before at all. But if you can find little nuggets that are like, that's how you do this, or I never thought about it in that way, then it's worth it. It is more than worth it. And just like you said, consistently do that process. Make an effort to just continue to learn.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get back to it now. So if you've enjoyed this, let us know. Let us know what books that you like, and let the other community members know. Also, subscribe to the channel if you like this, and definitely check out mine and Akil's other channels. But also, don't forget to share this episode and tag us on social for your chance to be picked at random to win Mike's book with his little nice note inside there for you guys. And until next time, remember, do less to gain perspective on everything, and we'll see you then. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for the Trader Coffee Break. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to never miss a live discussion. Follow our hosts on social media, and remember, do nothing to gain perspective on everything. See you next week.